For the first time in history, a French president visits the United States. On the liner Ile-de-France, President Vincent Auriol, accompanied by Mrs. Auriol and Foreign Minister Robert Schuman, arrives in New York, where he's greeted by Frederic Bartholdi's Statue of Liberty, given by France to her sister republic, the United States. Auriol and his party hurry to Washington, where in Union Station they're welcomed by President and Mrs. Truman. The ride through Washington, itself a symbol of French and American friendship, for it was designed by a French architect, takes the two presidents past 250,000 cheering Washingtonians. Reviewing a parade in his honor, Auriol pledges that his country will continue to take her place beside America in the battle for liberty, just as she has since 1776. In New York, ending his American visit, Auriol decorates Mayor Impellitteri and concludes with the traditional ceremonial kiss, which makes such a big hit with the photographers that they beg Monsieur Auriol for an encore. And the French president winds up his visit in a blaze of goodwill. In Europe's uneasy spring, General Dwight D. Eisenhower, commander of the Atlantic Pact Army, is greeted by British staff officers as he inspects important elements of his newly formed defense force. At Zenelager, British-occupied zone, Eisenhower is in Germany for the first time since taking command. Ike goes to the British training grounds to observe field exercises of the 91st Brigade, despite a late spring spell of foul weather. Since this area may, in the event of a Russian drive to the Atlantic, be the actual battleground, Eisenhower is determined to whip his forces into top shape. He next flies to Koblenz, in the French-occupied zone of Germany, for conference with top French generals Chomel and Guillaume. The French 3rd Division, also part of Ike's new European army, goes into maneuvers. French pioneer troops, equivalent of our engineers, throw up a bridge in record time as Eisenhower watches. United West European forces take important realistic steps to guard against aggression. An order by President Truman recalling General Douglas MacArthur from his command sets off one of the most dramatic and controversial news stories of the generation. In Tokyo, thousands of Japanese flock to the Daiichi building, the Supreme Allied headquarters, to see the 71-year-old five-star general as he enters his headquarters for the last time. The next morning, a plane from Korea brings to Tokyo the new Supreme Commander, General Matthew Ridgway, named by Truman to replace MacArthur. The changes in command keep Tokyo's Haneda Airport busy. Lieutenant General James A. Van Fleet arrives from Washington en route to Korea to succeed Ridgway as commander of the 8th Army. Now the recalled Supreme Commander arrives at the airport for his trip home, after a farewell ride past 250,000 cheering Japanese. General and Mrs. MacArthur say goodbye to American and Japanese friends. Then in the General's plane, the Baton, head for the homeland they've not seen in 14 years. After a brief stopover in Hawaii, the Baton brings the MacArthurs to a hero's homecoming in San Francisco. For the first time since 1935, MacArthur sets foot on the soil of the continental United States. The next morning, 500,000 San Franciscans hail the general as, accompanied by Mayor Robinson and Governor Warren, he goes on a 2-hour tour of the city. Then MacArthur heads for Washington to keep his scheduled appointment before Congress. The next day, after a non-stop flight to Washington, MacArthur arrives at the Capitol, where he's welcomed by prolonged cheers from the joint meeting of Congress. In a dramatic and impassioned speech, MacArthur defends his Far East policies and then closes on a personal note.
I am closing my 52 years of military service. When I joined the Army, even before the turn of the century, it was the fulfillment of all my boyish hopes and dreams. The world has turned over many times since I took the oath on the plain at West Point, and the hopes and dreams have long since vanished. But I still remember the refrain of one of the most popular barrack ballads of that day, which proclaimed most proudly that old soldiers never die. They just fade away. And like the old soldier of that ballad, I now close my military career and just fade away. An old soldier who tried to do his duty as God gave him the light to see that duty. Goodbye.
That afternoon, all Washington turns out to pay tribute to MacArthur, who heads the parade in a car with his wife, Jean Marie, and son, Arthur. Schools have been let out, and business and government offices closed in his honor. The celebration reaches its climax at the Washington Monument, where a vast throng hails MacArthur, who then goes on to New York. In New York on the following morning, the tumultuous welcome continues. 2 out of every 3 New Yorkers, including 4 million visitors, a total of 7.5 million people, turn out to give MacArthur the noisiest reception ever received by anyone as he tours the city. A blizzard of confetti, ticker tape, and torn paper, which eventually reaches a total of over 3,000 tons, cascades on MacArthur along his 19-mile route. The parade turns uptown along Fifth Avenue, where on each block an estimated 5,000 people are jammed shoulder to shoulder. Young Arthur enjoys his share of the welcome, too. Americans of all political opinions, differing though they may on issues raised by MacArthur's recall, join in giving an old soldier and a great one, General of the Army Douglas MacArthur, a hero's welcome to the United States. In these unassuming buildings at Chalk River, set in a corner of the Ontario bush country, some of Canada's top scientists are bombarding the atom in a $5 million atomic pile, the most powerful of its kind in the world. Inside a huge concrete cylinder, billions of neutrons move at speeds up to 10,000 miles per second, producing new materials that even now are radically changing the 20th century world. One such product is the cobalt-60 isotope, on which Chalk River Administrator Dr. D.A. Keyes and his assistants are working. The cobalt-60 isotope is an important factor in peacetime radiography for X-ray pictures and studies of the sun, and the Chalk River plant is the only one which can produce such cobalt. Much of this work, of course, is secret and cannot be photographed. Although the plant can be converted to war needs and has helped speed the H-bomb in American plants, the Chalk River atomic pile is planned for peace, producing aids to agriculture, medicine, science, and industry.
surely here when the circus comes to town. The Ringling Brothers open with a star-studded benefit for the Heart Fund. Fulfilling everybody's secret ambition, Jack Dempsey joins the clowns for a night. And now Lou Jacob presents a compressed preview of his 1958 model car, small enough to solve any city parking problem. Here's a voice from the audience, Jimmy Durante.
You know, I was downstairs, and I seen one of them elephants looking at a little mouse. And the elephant was saying to the mouse, look at the size of me and look at the size of you. Why, you're nothing but a wretched, insignificant little shrimp. The little mouse looked up at the elephant and said, listen, I've been sick. Let me take the pictures, come on.
As the thrills come thick and fast, wire-walking wonder Hubert Castle goes into his act on a taut steel thread. In a unique feat of balance, Leone startles the crowd on his swaying pole. And Benito Del Oro takes to the air on a flying trapeze. The death-defying aerialists sail through the air, thrilling kids, young and old, all over America. The prodigious, wonderful, and astounding circus is back. Years ago, little Ben Hogan, teeing off in the Masters tournament at Augusta, set his sights on one of professional golf's greatest prizes. But Ben seems jinxed never to take the coveted Masters, as he loses a heartbreaking playoff against a near-record 280 score by Byron Nelson. Hogan's career seemed at its peak with his 1948 PGA victory over Mike Turnisa. Soon afterward, Hogan was almost fatally injured in an automobile accident. The brilliant skill with which he made shots like this over Turnisa's stymie seemed lost to golf forever. In the U.S. Open at Ardmore, Pennsylvania, a year following his accident, although doctors had predicted he would never walk again, Hogan gains a triple tie for first, outplaying a field of golfing's greatest. Now, with iron control, Hogan seeks the final playoff putt to win from Lloyd Mangum and George Fazio. Hogan's comeback is successful, and is Mrs. Hogan proud of the new U.S. Open champion? Hogan now has his eye on the Masters, the only major U.S. tournament he has never won. Starting out in the last round of the 1951 Masters, one stroke behind Ski Regal and Sammy Snead, Hogan thrills the crowd of 10,000 with powerful shots and brilliant putting. Meantime, Regal has come in with a 282. The crowd is tense. Can Hogan beat Regal? He has only to sink the next putt to win. And sink it he does for a winning 280, one stroke over the record. As Regal watches, Hogan is congratulated by Bobby Jones as he adds the Masters crown to a brilliant golf career.
The Philadelphia Zoo, oldest in the country, tries an experiment in its new birdhouse. It's opened its cages so that birds and humans can mingle without the interference of wire, glass, or netting. The birds seem to like it. As for the humans, they can stare at a South American lapwing just as if they were alone with it in the jungle. And the cock of the rock doesn't mind visitors at all. A golden-fronted bulbul is perfectly at home on a familiar azalea bush, and any bird is free to supervise from a perch on the cameraman's shoulders as he photographs a flock of Victoria crown pigeons from New Guinea, largest pigeons in the world. This pair of rare Indian hornbills
eagles, who have a 7-foot wing spread, resemble the Brazilian toco toucans with their 8-inch beaks. Another of the 51 exotic species who mingle with tourists and sightseers is the motmot, common to Central America. One of the favorites is the American hummingbird, whose freewheeling maneuvering skill as he hovers over the Avery Pond surpasses that of a helicopter. Shorebirds, among them black-necked stilts and European oyster catchers, live in an authentic background of sand and driftwood.
Oh, my, I'm tired. I've been on my feet all day.
From the air, Lebanon, Connecticut, with its scattered white houses, hardly seems to have aged since the days of the Revolution. Its livestock in rock-walled pastures, its orderly barns, mark Lebanon, like many another American town, as a farming community. In some ways unchanged since the day Lebanon patriots left on foot to fight at Bunker Hill, Lebanon seems timeless. In other ways, the town is always growing with the restless energy of America. Much to its own surprise, Lebanon recently found itself the center of worldwide curiosity. For in the State Department's International Publications Division, artists and writers were at work on a pamphlet which in photographs and 51 foreign languages is telling people all over the world, even behind the Iron Curtain, about life in Lebanon, an American community in action. The Trumbull Library reaffirms Lebanon's connection with the past, a democratic past, founded, as America's fathers stated, on a belief in God, whether worshipped in a Baptist church, a simple synagogue, formerly a schoolhouse, whose rabbi is a Lebanon farmer, or a Catholic church built a few years ago in an historically Protestant area. In early times, Lebanon's religious life centered around the Congregational Meeting House, designed by a son of the famous Jonathan Trumbull, who was governor of Connecticut during the Revolution. From here, Governor Trumbull and his 4 sons participated in revolutionary activities from Boston to Valley Forge. A tunnel ran to the War Office, where with Washington, Jefferson, Franklin, Lafayette, and many others, they planned for America's freedom. With these democratic traditions forming a background of their lives, Lebanon's young people are conscious of their part in a world still fighting for freedom. With New England pride in craftsmanship, boys and girls alike learn to work with their hands. Such training is as much a part of education for their role in community life as geography or arithmetic or history. In their new elementary school, which replaces 7 one-room buildings scattered throughout the countryside, the younger children of Lebanon are discovering the international counterpart of the traditional New England town meeting. Through a United Nations session in miniature, they can see the selfishness of one nation threaten the harmony and order of the democratic process and the security of other nations. The setting is homemade, but the lesson is real. The people of Lebanon come from many groups. Some are descendants of early settlers. Others, like the Vincent McBride family, are newcomers. Mr. McBride, an electrical engineer, and his wife have followed the example of early settlers in joining with their neighbors in a full community life. To a world beset by anxiety, Lebanon, with its balance of tradition and progress, stands as an example of democratic life.
Thank you, Pilot Life Insurance, for that wonderful World in a Camera episode. Oh, I noticed that you can see my washer and dryer. Hi, I'm Skip Elsheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime streaming show, live from my basement because of COVID. I collect old 16mm films and show them to folks like you, and have been doing it for almost 30 years. I can't remember what year I really started collecting. Horrible about years. Really horrible, but there you go. It was probably 92. I don't know. Anyways. Yeah, so that World in the Camera was kind of a combination of lots of different newsreels, and watching the ticker tape parade reminded me of the fact that I actually went to a ticker tape parade back in 1998 for John Glenn. And this was in New York City. It was kind of downtown. It wasn't up near Times Square like a lot of that footage showed. And I had friends that were telling me, like, yeah, watch for fires on the sidewalk. And I was like, what? Fires on the sidewalk? So I was sitting there. I think it was fairly close to City Hall. And, you know, all the parades went past. John Glenn went past. It's funny. Giuliani went past, and people were yelling El Duce at him. And I was like, oh, that's funny. So anyways, yeah, so like all this computer paper was raining down. Some of it was shredded. Some of it was just full things of like computer paper just falling. And I would say about 5 minutes after it fell, I started seeing little things of smoke in different parts of the sidewalk, and it was because, you know, people throw their cigarettes out and there's paper there, or there's cigarettes there, then the paper hits it, and then so sure enough there was some little fires. So that's my only ticker tape parade experience, but it was quite something. Yeah, so the next film we're going to watch is Earning Money While Going to School. And this is a cornet film. And it's interesting because it kind of is laying it out. The fact that some people are going to have to work to survive or work to save, and they're going to do it while they're in school. So how do you do that? So here we go.
Sure, I work part-time. After school 2 days a week and all day Saturday. I'm glad to, but I'm also glad for experience to get a full-time job later.
When I have the chance, I babysit evenings, even though I spend a lot of my spare time helping around home. It's nice to have a little spending money, and besides, well, someday I hope to have children of my own, and I'll know better how to take care of them.
Part-time job? Not for me. I don't learn as fast as some do, and all my extra time has to go into studying to keep up. So I don't have any part-time work.
Some of us want part-time work, others do not. But for those who do, there is a variety of part-time job opportunities. Mowing lawns, delivery jobs, retail jobs, fountain jobs, outdoor jobs of all sorts, and many others. Let's find out more about Bill Drake, who works in this bookstore part-time, how he came to have this job, and why he likes it so well. Some weeks ago, Bill was walking along and saw something he'd like to have bought very much. But he just didn't have the cash to pay for it. That had happened to Bill before, and he was determined to find a part-time job. He had called at the school placement office, inquired among his friends, and was following the want ads in the newspaper. So many different kinds of jobs. Which kinds should Bill try for? Just how could he get one of these jobs? He soon found that looking for a job takes time, patience, and nerve. Often you'll find you've been beaten to the job you wanted, but you just have to keep trying until you find what you want. Too bad, though. Bill would like to learn about small business, because someday he wants to have a business of his own. But right now, today, Bill wants to earn some spending money, so try another. Boy, printer's assistant. That would be fun. And he might learn about the business in that job, too. But no, some training is needed to qualify for that one. Bill will have to use more care in selecting places to apply. He keeps looking for jobs where he could do the work and perhaps learn a bit as well. It takes time and patience. And then...
Jameson's bookstore. Why, he's looking for... Yes, here it is. Boy for part-time work in bookstore. I'll bet I could get that job. Maybe get a typewriter at a discount. But a bookstore. Boy, I get enough of books all day long. Still, it is a small business. Maybe I could learn a bit about how it's operated. Nothing like trying, anyway.
Well, hello, Bill. What can I do for you today?
Well, Mr. Jameson, you advertise for a part-time helper. I'd sure like to work for you.
Well, you look as if you could do it. You'll be selling books and handling stock. All day Saturday and 2 days a week after school.
2 afternoons. Oh, I was hoping it would just be Saturdays. But, well, that's all right.
You better be sure. Last young fellow I had left me. Said he didn't have enough time for studying. Now, you know I can't be training people just to lose them. So if you take this job, I'm going to expect you to stay and take care of your studies and recreation in other times.
Oh, yes, sir. I'm sure I can do it.
Well, here's what we'll do. Let's try it out for 2 weeks. If we're both satisfied at the end of that time, you will have a steady job here.
Boy, thanks, Mr. Jameson. When do I start?
Right now.
So Bill started on his first regular part-time job. What did it mean to him? Well, during the day, he was meeting people, learning to get along with people, just as he would all through his life. And he was seeing what it means to play a useful role in the community. And at closing time, he was able to get acquainted with methods of operating a business. He could see how these methods might fit into his own business someday. Bill was also learning responsibility, new skills, new abilities. He was learning the importance of keeping records, and above all, the meaning and value of money. Yes, Bill's job could help him in many ways. He was learning to make use of his time and energy, learning to get along in a regular schedule of work. But there was still this matter of schoolwork. What about school? What effect did Bill's job have on his studies?
Yeah, what about schoolwork? School isn't so easy when you have less time for study. The assignments seem to get heavier every day. Of what value are bookkeeping records to the operator of a small business? Pretty tough. And literature. What similarities of subject matter and style may be found among the New England writers? Good night. It's going to take time to learn all that. And now I've got to go to work. I have to tell Mr. Jameson I can't keep the job, I guess.
Well, Bill,
Today marks the end of the trial period we agreed upon. I want you to know that I'm very satisfied with your work, and I want you to stay on.
Mr. Jameson...
You know, you remind me of a fellow who used to work here. Oh, not that last fellow. He couldn't hold a candle to you. Had to quit to keep up with his studies. You remind me of a fellow who worked here some time ago. His name was Howard. Howard was a good, steady worker, just like you. Howard always said he got as much out of working here as he did at school. Oh, I guess he was exaggerating a bit, but you know a fellow can learn a lot in a place like this. Well, I'm glad to have you stay.
I'd like to look through some of your books on essays.
Essays?
Yes, you know, Thoreau, Emerson, the New England writers.
Oh, right over there, sir. Browse as much as you wish.
Thanks.
New England writers. I'll bet I could learn a lot of my literature work just keeping eyes and ears open around here. And, boy, what's the matter with me? I can really learn about bookkeeping here, too. This is a small business, and Mr. Jameson keeps records of all income and expenses.
I've got it. Mr. Jameson, I'll stay on this job. Why, working here will help me with my schoolwork. I'll make time to study somehow or other, and I'll learn lots of things right here. I'm glad to stay.
Well, I assumed you would.
Bill found that his part-time job helped him in many ways. His schoolwork became easier and even improved. Bill did find that he had less recreation time, that he had to turn down chances for fun because of the responsibility of his job. But whenever he did take time to play, Bill enjoyed himself all the more. He was learning to use his time effectively at play and at school. He was making the most of whatever time he had for study. And there were other benefits from Bill's job. It is nice to have a little money for things you want. So while Bill gave up a lot for his job, he also gained a great deal. Let's see how he feels about it all now.
I feel fine about it, and I'm going to keep this job. I'm learning all sorts of things. I'm getting experience that's valuable on how a small business is run, and I'm earning money for my efforts. Maybe you should consider part-time work. You'll have to decide for yourself. Think it over. Consider carefully. It's worthwhile to work part-time, if you can spare the time.
So you probably noticed, I forgot to close that door again. All right, I'll do it next time. Because I really don't want you to see my laundry. Anyways, you notice the film rolled occasionally. And that's because, I mean, you can't smell it, but there's a slight vinegar smell here. And what's happening is the film is beginning to shrink. So the sprocket holes are beginning to shrink. And so there's a sprocketed wheel here. And so when it misses catching a sprocket, you get that uneasiness and that roll. There's a way to do it where I put my finger on it, which is very tedious, and I end up with black on my finger. So I decided not to do it this time, but, you know. This next film, oh yeah, also somebody said, Bill's actual job is working for Cornet Films. And so I actually kind of sat and thought about it. I was like, yeah, I'm sure the kids got paid to be in these films. Like, it wasn't volunteer work. So, that's something I want to track down and see, like, how much they got paid. Like, what was the deal with that? I think that they actually wore their own clothes. There wasn't a wardrobe. But, yeah, I need to... I haven't really run into anybody that was in any of these films as a teenager. So I don't know. I've run into some where they were kids, but yeah. Anyways, this film is called The Health Wreckers, and it's all about the things that we love to ingest that wreck our health. I should also, speaking of which, thank you, William, for the coffee. Maybe it's slowly doing damage to my insides, but my brain doesn't care. So, health records.
The human body is fantastic. Few of us train to the perfect condition of... Most of us may not be in perfect condition. Healthy body, working the way it is supposed to, is something almost everybody enjoys. Especially when we are young, we tend to take good health for granted. Our bodies are rugged. We can knock them around fairly hard. We can fill them full of a lot of things that aren't too good for them and still not seriously damage our health. But there are 3 things that some people use that can be real health wreckers: alcohol, drugs, and cigarettes. Alcohol is a health wrecker. People have been drinking alcoholic beverages for thousands of years. They drink them because they enjoy them. But any substance is harmful when it is misused. Alcohol is not just any substance. It is a powerful drug. And sometimes some people drink too much. By observing how alcohol affects a fish, we can get a good idea of how it affects people. Alcohol added to the water will enter the bloodstream of the fish as he breathes. He will probably have a bad headache when he recovers, but we won't give him enough to kill him. Intoxication is the term we use to describe the overall effect of alcohol. In more everyday terms, we call it drunkenness. However we choose to describe him, it's pretty obvious that too much alcohol has put our fish in a very unhealthy condition. When a 150-pound man takes a drink containing 1/2 ounce of alcohol, the alcohol reaching his brain begins to affect his ability to make decisions. 3 drinks impair reaction time and coordination. Vision, speech, and balance are affected after 5 drinks. 8 drinks give trouble with walking and standing. If he goes as high as 20 drinks of 1/2 ounce alcohol each, our 150-pound man will lose consciousness. If he could consume 25 before he passes out, he might die. Everyone, sooner or later, will find alcoholic beverages served at social gatherings. The decision to drink or not to drink is a decision which each individual must make for himself. But a person who is mature enough to respect himself and others is not likely to drink too much. A shot of whiskey, a cocktail, a glass of wine, a bottle of beer, each of these contains about the same amount of alcohol, about 1/2 ounce of a powerful drug that changes the way the body functions. Think twice about alcohol. Alcohol can be a health wrecker. Drugs can be health wreckers. In medical use, drugs can help a sick or injured body to function in a normal way. With the use of all drugs, skill and knowledge are required. The right drug, the right amount, helps with medical problems. The wrong drug, the wrong amount, can cause great harm. Why do people without medical problems take drugs? They have problems of another kind. They want to feel better. They may have family problems. A problem of having nothing to do. Or of fitting in with a group which has already begun a drug habit. Used by persons who know nothing about them, drugs can do permanent injury to vital organs of the body. They sometimes cause death. Personal problems are very real problems. But everyone who ever sought escape through the drug habit found their problems still there when the drugs wore off. Are drugs for personal problems, or are they for injury and sickness? Think twice about drugs. Drugs can be health wreckers. Cigarettes are health wreckers. Cigarettes are made of finely cut tobacco leaves. A smoker lights one end and sucks the other to fill his lungs with smoke. Smoke is a waste product of burning. We usually think of smoke as destructive and dangerous. Our cities are trying to reduce the amount of smoke in the air. Yet millions of Americans have the unhealthy habit of breathing smoke on purpose. Smoking is a habit that is very hard to get rid of once it's started. The earlier you start, the harder it is to quit. A smoker becomes almost a slave to his health-wrecking habit. It is easy to drift into smoking. Everyone knows people who smoke. It can seem like a natural thing to do. It may seem like the in thing to do. People have been telling us all our lives that smoking is a desirable thing to do. They want us to feel that smoking will make us more rugged, or more feminine, or more sophisticated. If we will just try their brand, the world will be more enjoyable. The people that tell us this are concerned with one thing: selling cigarettes. But consider what some other people have to say. Doctors have spent their lives studying the body and its health. A doctor will tell you that smokers risk serious diseases. A new smoker won't end up in a doctor's office right away, but each cigarette is affecting him. Each cigarette is a tiny step toward an eventual health problem. This label is required by law. If Smoking Sam could talk, he'd tell you why. Sam was made to smoke cigarettes in much the same manner as people do. He will give us an idea of what smoking does to human lungs. What will smoking do for Sam? Will he be more rugged? Will he be more sophisticated? What will happen to Sam's lungs after he has smoked a few packages of cigarettes? It really doesn't matter if Sam smokes. Tar and nicotine won't hurt Sam because his lungs are only glass. He won't get lung cancer. He won't get heart disease because Sam's lungs aren't real and are worked by a pump. He won't get a lung disease called emphysema, which makes breathing very difficult. Only real people get these diseases. It doesn't matter if Sam smokes, but how about you? Can you imagine what your lungs would have to deal with if Sam's lungs look like this after smoking a few packs of cigarettes? The decision not to smoke must be made many times. As with most decisions, it's up to you. If you start, you're beginning a habit that is very hard to get rid of if you should ever want to quit. You are deciding about a habit that includes things like this. Is smoking something to drift into or something to decide about? Think twice about cigarettes. Cigarettes are health records. Good health is an important part of a good life. A lot of people enjoy life more without too much alcohol. Without abusing drugs. Without polluting their lungs with cigarette smoke. Think twice. The living's better without the health wreckers.
So I was trying to point at that little green thing that was right here. That was a green scratch. So that was an emulsion scratch, which meant that it was scratching into where the graphic information, the photo information was, the emulsion. It was scratching away all the colors except leaving green. And that was probably because when somebody threaded the projector, they didn't thread it completely right, and so you had film that wasn't sitting correctly, and it was sitting, the middle of the film was sitting against where there was a sprocketed wheel, and it was scratching, like every time it would hit a sprocket it would just scratch instead of like being on where the perf was, it would just scratch. So yeah, there's stories to be told about these scratches, like where they came from, how they existed, and it's sad to see them, but they do, you know, I got most of these from schools, and so schools, sometimes the projectors weren't kept well running correctly, and sometimes the teachers didn't know how to thread them correctly, and so that's what you are seeing. This next film, it's a challenge here. It says restricted usage for 4th through 6th grade, and it has a program note, which is awesome because it's round. I love this. Man, the die cut for this. I used to do offset printing, and so that used to be a hobby. The die cutting here is phenomenal. Anyways, so this is Loneliness, the Empty Treehouse. So here we go. Enjoy. Yes, we get it.
It's sad when someone you know has to go far away. It's so strange to say goodbye when you've been friends a long time. But you will find the days go on, they never stop. Do you want to drop out of the game?
John, it's Mike. He wants to know if you can go sleigh riding. He's one of the cat people. They can climb all kinds of things. John? Could never climb.
Not now. Maybe later.
Look up on that ledge above him. It's a little girl. That's the way, Cheetah. If anybody can save that kid, it's you. Hurry, Cheetah. Hurry.
Got the package. You mean the whistles? Yeah. Why didn't you open it before? I was waiting for you. Wow. Gee, these are neat. Sure it's a whistle? Yeah, I'm sure. What is it used for?
They use them on ships for signaling.
get down, they're gonna see you. When they get in front of us, you signal, then I'll get up and blast them, okay? All right. John! He doesn't want to play because Steve's coming.
Service for Chicago, Las Vegas, and Los Angeles.
John! Yeah? This is for you. Gee, isn't this the mask you wore when you won the championship? Yeah. You sure you want me to have it? Yup, and if you want the puck, it's in the treehouse. Here, I thought you might want to read those while you're on the plane. Thanks.
Let's go, Steve.
Mr. Scott, Mr. Michael Scott, please contact the information counter in the main lobby.
What are you doing here? Are you gonna play here? Think fast, Kenny! Almost, Kenny, come on, signal! All right, come on. Almost, signal fast, big signal. All right, come on, Kenny! Come on! The rebound! Let's pass it back! All right! All right, come on, now, put it in! Kenny! Shoot it! All right, good shot! It's all tied up! One thing on that penguin! Up to it! All right, come on! Aren't you coming?
It's sad when someone you know has to go far away. It's so strange to say goodbye when you've been friends a long time. But you will find the days go on, they never stop. Do you want to drop out of the game?
All right, that was a little melancholic. Here's some questions we're supposed to ask after this. And there's some activities. Let's talk about the activities. Have children collect pictures which suggest loneliness. Pictures might show a single tree on a hill, one goldfish in a big bowl that we get drunk, an old lady on a park bench, a man sitting on a crowded subway train. Have the child who brought each picture tell why the picture suggests loneliness. This would also be a good time to elicit the distinction between being alone and being lonely. Encourage the children, as individuals or as a group, to write a poem, a story, a short essay about loneliness. Have children make up a new ending for this film. Have children draw or paint pictures using only shapes and colors to suggest loneliness. Some children may prefer to use cutouts or term paper to make collages. When the pictures are completed, ask children to use the same shapes in different arrangements and with different colors to suggest that loneliness has disappeared. Have children write and perform a short play about loneliness. It might be done in pantomime. Ask children to make faces that suggest loneliness. Have them try to capture some of these expressions in masks made out of cardboard or from paper bags. Have stories and poems about loneliness available in the library. Because, so I think that some of these would work. The idea that you would have, well, if you're interested in loneliness, here's some more stories and poems about loneliness that you can read. It's not the same as like learning some awesome science concept or learning about some interesting historical event where, you've spurred this interest. It's like these kids feel crappy that their friends left, moved away. Maybe you want to read more about that. I don't know. Well, I can't leave it on that. I can't leave it with a downer. So this is a couple of TV spots that I have for Crest. At one point, I did a digitizing project for an ad archive at Duke University, and I did like almost an entire history of Crest, from before Crest was even introduced and being sold to around when the gel Crest started being sold, and including all the Cavity Creeps commercials. Phenomenal. And I actually had to switch over to Crest for a little while because my brain was completely washed clean. It was like 13 hours of Crest commercials. But these are Crest commercials that are in my collection, that I have some 16mm things. And one of them has a young celebrity in them. See if you can name who that young celebrity is. All right, here we go. Here's the Crest TV spots.
The museum is proud of this flightless bird dating back 50 million years.
It's great.
Oh, but today's
Dad! Dad! I only had one.
One?
Cavity.
Oh, that's splendid. Well, he's proud.
He should be with only one cavity.
Oh, yes,
indeed. How did you do it?
Well, let's see.
Mom changed to Crest.
Oh, of course. He brushed with Crest.
Are you sure Crest did it?
Well, we tried a lot of toothpaste, but Crest, well, an historic checkup.
What makes Crest so special?
Well, stannous fluoride. Most remarkable discovery. You can't buy a better cavity fighter.
Well, they all have that stand.
Well, definitely not. Of the top 5, only Crest does.
Oh, I knew that, Mary. And Crest is the only one of the 5 accepted by the American Dental Association.
It's got 2 flavors, Dad.
Oh, yes. Regular and mint.
That I knew.
Have checkups, watch treats, and brush after eating with Crest. These are the 5 leading toothpastes. Most families brush with one of them. But how many get stannous fluoride? And you know you can't buy a better cavity fighter than stannous fluoride. This family doesn't get it, nor does this one, or this one, or this one. Only this family gets cavity-fighting stannous fluoride, the Crest family. You've got to have stannous fluoride in the tube to say so on the tube.
All right. So, anybody guess who the young celebrity was? It's a little kid that runs into the during the museum tour. It's a young Paris. I always mess up his last name. Paris Femin, who played Mike TV on Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and I actually had an opportunity twice to hang out with Paris Femin. He came to the Alamo along with the woman who played Veruca Salt, and we hosted, God, how many screenings? It was like 6 or 7 screenings of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory for people who wanted to come and meet. And I told Paris, I said, I was talking to him about his early career, and he said, yeah, I was in some Crest commercials. And I was like, you know what? I got that Crest commercial, and so I sent it to him, and he got very excited because he had not seen it, really. Didn't really have a memory of it. So both him and the woman who played Veruca Salt, very nice people. Really, really fun. And I'm sure they'll come back to Raleigh, the Alamo, when we get through the other side of this. But, yeah, kind of fascinating. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Very much appreciate your time and your eyeballs and paying attention. Join me tomorrow, 1 o'clock, and we'll watch some more films. I'll pull some more films. That film, Loneliness, is really phenomenal. You know, it's like, why does the school need to talk about loneliness and talk about these feelings? And it's, you know, it's part of that 70s kind of feel. And it starts in the 50s a little bit, but really kind of hits home in the 70s. Yeah, it's pretty phenomenal. I love films that kind of deal with those emotions, and this resonates with me because I was probably close to the age of those kids when this came out. Anyways, everybody have a good rest of your day, and we will see you again tomorrow. As always, look inside the film can to gain wisdom, to love each other, smiley face with eyelashes, and to please rewind. Everybody take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye.